Is it rolling? Yes, it's recording. What's up, guys? How are you? How's the day? It's getting sunny around here. Goal is to go through this and to actually, I don't know what to tell you, dudes. Okay, let me start with something at least. There's this image in my head of me kind of like, I don't know, it's just things are looking differently in my mind right now. And I'm guessing ideas towards how I can do things are kind of like molding differently, or at least like new stuff is kind of like coming out. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know how I feel about them, but they kind of make sense, and so I questioned them. One of them was to kind of like just I need to give myself more of a reason in order to be able to kind of like build the platform, actually work on it, right? I did some work on it. I worked like for an hour today, and then I did something for my brother, and he wants me to open an Amazon store for him. I thought about it, and I was started to think about like the difference in decision making and how I'm kind of like not really committed to one thing. And then from there, I kind of while I was talking to him yesterday, I was like, I will only do what you tell me to do, so I don't get to make any decisions. I don't think. I don't do any of that stuff. And but I still need motivation to kind of like work, and I'm feeling like that whole eat the frog methodology is the one that works the most. So I kind of have to start waking up early for this. But I'm not really vibing in an intense way right now. I don't know if you guys understand it. I'm not really vibing on I have to do thought, 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 thought. It kind of seemed like it wasn't as efficient as I would have wanted it to be, maybe, or as effective. Effective, yeah. Because that kind of vibe, I don't know how to explain it. I want to build a connection between me and coding the platform. And I feel like all I've been doing over the past couple of months was just kind of like exploring different things in order for me to kind of like, I don't know, just to take my mind off of, I don't know, I did a boot camp, man, for a month. And before that, I was working every single day, but I wasn't completely like efficient in how I was working. It was kind of like still in the whole like settling down phase or just structuring things. I really don't want to work on the business side of that, or I can't afford to think about the business side anymore of the actual platform. It really has to just be write the fucking code and go through it. But for some reason, things just keep taking my attention. I don't know. Today's video is when people tell you that you have changed, it's one of two things. You're no longer yourself around them, or you have become more yourself around them. So these are notes that are over 2 months old. Like when I read them, I feel like I actually like went through the process of having these discussions in my head. And I think it's probably because I wrote them that long ago, right? Because I wrote them that long ago, I actually like went through them. But here, so when people tell you that you have changed, it's one of two things. You're no longer yourself around them, or you have become more yourself around them. And it's funny because you're no longer yourself around them, that kind of means you don't trust them. And or you actually realize that you can't trust them. And I feel because like they're telling you that you've changed, so they know a part of you, and you kind of like either trusting them fully or relaxing around them. So let's not use trust. Let's use relaxing and being on guard. Why would I write such a note? I think on a being yourself level. It's funny because okay, so like what I did was I gave two choices. One, I'm no longer myself around them, which means I have an ego, a persona that basically handles such situations. And whether we like to admit it or not, we all kind of like The people that thrive in situations, like really thrive, kind of have a pattern that they follow. And you'll start noticing that once you start noticing the people that are kind of like outside the norm. But so, and it's the same because like when you create a character, it becomes automatic. You're no longer kind of engaging with the present. And so when people look at you and be like, you've changed, like they're not really able to connect with you. That's as simple as that. And that's kind of like a block of some sort, or just like a whole like stay where you are kind of engagement. And what thought just popped in my head? Whilst on the other side, you're being fully yourself. And that comes with a lot of like openness and connection. But they're not able to connect to you because they have that image of you that used to exist probably. And now they're getting to basically see more of you, and that kind of like it's not something they're comfortable with, it's not something they're used to, it's not something they wouldn't put effort in, right? Because like the way you are, the way you normally are, if the way you are is harmonious with my image of you, then I don't really have to like think, consider. I just go, move, flow, right? It's just like my pattern with your pattern, and we basically do our thing. So I don't necessarily believe that kind of like is a natural occurrence with people. I think each one kind of like forces a certain image in their head about things. And that's the storytelling part of our mind, I guess, that kind of like creates these ideas in a very, creates these kind of like personas? No, creates these stories around spaces, environments, times, activities, experiences. There's a whole kind of like storyline that follows people. And we don't really have to understand where it's coming from. We just feel it, right? So kind of like our engagements kind of like are refined with the people that we're more comfortable with or that we know more because we basically engage a lot more with like their mannerisms, their like the smaller things that kind of make them who they are. But change in this case is basically change. Okay, so seeing change as the global constant, as the thing that's consistent with everything, then ultimately you can't help but be. If I were to know you, then any persona that I or a story that I create of you is not going to work because change is constant. And what's going to happen every time I sit with you, I'm going to be further away from your image because I'm every day I actually move further away from the image. But every time I sit with you, you kind of like notice that I'm moving further away from the image you have of me. And that should show that we don't really have as close as a bond that we thought we did, and to allow people to kind of like engage with each other on a more profound level, deeper level. Just who cares about depth, man? Maybe activity based levels, maybe just drinks. Sometimes that's enough to kind of form a bond of trust. It doesn't really have to be know everything about myself. And so it's the stuff about this kind of like is what we miss because we instantly, when we see, my cat's kind of like, when we see ourselves just not really connecting with the other person, I feel shamefully the first thing that we think about was like, no, we build the wall, I guess, or we just kind of like feel threatened. I understand why that would be mostly the case, but I think us noticing that there's a change is an opportunity for us to kind of like think back maybe or just consider whether the investment is still worth it, whether it makes sense for you to kind of like enter your small, uh, like expand the relationship. Consider these things objectively and subjectively. Why the fuck not? Like sometimes that's all we need to do. And again, like we just when something like this happens, I feel like the first thing that happens is we kind of like detach from the situation. And when we see other people kind of like changed, for us, we kind of like take a step back because we are further away, or else I'm still harmonizing with them. And so ultimately, I think we should use that as a method of self-actualization. Either way, you're either no longer yourself with them, or you're more yourself with them. So I think if somebody notices it or acts in a certain way or makes you feel that way, the first thing we do is we kind of consider why maybe, and then we use that as an opportunity to take it a step forward with anything we have, or at least whatever we want. You're no longer yourself around them, or you've become more yourself around them. Either way, I think like it's a chance for us to objectively see how we are how we are interacting and expressing ourselves. It's a video.